Hey guys, I am getting on here to talk about the Lyme antibody test, the CDC guidelines. I get asked this question all the time because of many people that are suffering and they cannot find, they've gone to doctor after doctor after doctor, same story that I have of going from one doctor to the next and getting the same thing. I don't know what's wrong with you, go to a rheumatologist, go to a neurologist, and they ultimately, you get pushed away and you feel like you're literally dying and you don't know where to go to figure out what's wrong with you. All you want is an answer after years of searching and trying to figure out what's wrong with you. And I went through this back in 2011, started getting really sick in 2010 when I got pregnant with Reese. But I want to explain the antibody test and why most chronic Lyme patients don't end up with a positive Lyme test. So here it is. I was explained like this. So I had Lyme disease for over 25 years. I got bit when I was a kid. I used to run through the forest. In fact, there's several people in my area that actually have Lyme and chronic Lyme today. And Jesse Helms is one of them. He grew up in my neighborhood too. But I got bit when I was a kid and I didn't know it. I lived my whole life. I was an athlete. I ran a sprint triathlon. I ran a half marathon. I would run 10 milers every year. Like, this was in my adulthood. I was playing volleyball up into my adulthood. So I was very active, but I got it when I was a child. And I had weird things like, my shoulder went out. I had to stop setting when I was, I didn't know that's why, but it was actually the Lyme in my shoulder joint and I didn't know, but I ended up having to stop setting. I could only hit. Anyway, just a lot of stuff that I just kind of blew it off. I would get sick, stay sick longer, but you just always got better. You always recovered. And then after I had 2 children, the Lyme just really took over. And so here's the thing with the antibody test. So since I had it for so long, the antibodies, when you go to get a test, a Western blot, you get tested for the bands, the antibody bands. Well, according to the CDC, you have to have 5 positive bands. I think that's right. That's what it was when I got testing. I don't know what it is now. But it's very hard to get a positive test if you've had chronic Lyme disease and you've had it for a really long time. Your body has been literally staying on top of it. It's kind of like the herpes virus where you have it and only if your immune system goes down, then you get a cold sore. So it's kind of like that where all these years your immune system has fought it very well. And eventually you have a perfect storm. And my perfect storm was it was my second child. I started showing symptoms really bad with Lily, but they didn't really fully come out until I had Reese. And at that time, we were living it was a very difficult time. We were living in a house that I'm certain had mold in it. It was just a lot of things that helped take my immune system down, and then the Lyme really took over and took me to my knees. And then, of course, I went on the search. Reese was born. She had it. She was healthy for 2 weeks, so she got RSV, and then she wasn't well again for years, just constantly sick. So once she was 2.5, she ended up having a surgery for her. Well, she had what is this called? No, she had the tubes in her ears when she was 13 months old, and then she had tonsils and adenoids out. And then we also moved into a new house without the mold. So all that right there got me to a place where I was like able to actually help myself and go out and search for doctors. And after 100 doctors, Johns Hopkins, all the mix, negative test, negative this, negative that, blood test after blood test. I mean, I just literally thought I was dying. And so eventually I ended up with a Lyme test. And of course they told me it was negative. And so I went an entire year with that negative test in a Target bag under all the medical records. I mean, my medical records were like this, paper after paper. And I just started collecting them, carrying them with me, doctor to doctor to doctor. And eventually, by the grace of God, a lady came to our church who pointed me to another doctor, Dr. Abaddon. He saved our lives, literally. So he was an immunologist and an ENT, and he was the only doctor that stuck with me. He would send me to here, get records, here, get records, back and forth, back and forth. And eventually, he literally was like, give me that stack of medical records. Let me see all your history. And he was the only doctor that would literally brave every single test that was in there. And he came upon the Lyme test that was a year prior. And he said, you have Lyme disease. And now, according to the CDC, the Lyme test was negative. But the fact that I had been fighting it for so long, so you think of it like this, you get Lyme, and then your body naturally, because that's the way God made our bodies, starts making the antibodies that will fight that particular disease. Well, after I had it for so long, those antibodies just started losing. So you have a teeny bitty positive on that test, but according to the CDC guidelines, you go to any doctor that accepts insurance will say that test is negative. So the only way to get a CDC positive Lyme test is if, okay, I had to do a cut there because Lily comes out with her phone blasting. But anyway, so the CDC basically tells you that you have to have a certain number of antibodies. So the only way to get a CDC positive Lyme test is to have it acutely. So, you go out, you get bit, you start having flu-like symptoms, you might even get a bullseye rash, maybe only 50% of the people do. And you go to the doctor, they're like, okay, test you for Lyme. Oh yeah, you have Lyme disease. Okay, we'll put you on 30 days of antibiotics. That is the CDC standard of doxycycline, and then you get better. And you're like, other people are like, well, I don't understand. No, you don't have Lyme. I mean, I don't understand because I got Lyme and I got better because, I got tested. My test was positive according to CDC. So CDC guidelines only apply to acute Lyme disease. If you get it, you get tested right away, you treat it right away. And that's why they say acute Lyme is more curable than chronic. Not only that, it is harder. Chronic Lyme it's kind of like the herpes virus, it never goes away, but you got to get your immune system back on top of it to keep it back down. So that is the point of going through the major treatment that me and both of my girls went through. So here's what happened. I finally got tested, and I said, oh yeah, Reese, I know Reese has it. So I actually had that same doctor, Dr. Abaddon, test her for Lyme, and sure enough, she came back positive. But here's the kicker. I went to an infectious disease doctor because that's what you do. You follow the system, okay? So I go to a pediatric infectious disease doctor. I mean, top of the line, like children's specific. They did a lot of different things, specialties. I mean, top of the line infectious disease doctor. That lady sat down with me for an entire hour, me and my husband, and explained to me textbooks wise. She was explaining how the CDC, she was way more positive test than mine was. And that lady was trying to convince me that her test was negative because she did not have all the required bands to be positive. And I just walked out of there and I'm like, okay, no, she is definitely positive. So here's the thing. Me and my daughter and Lily, because she eventually showed up positive as well, we all three went through treatment at Dr. Jim Sec in DC on I was on IV for probably 2 years. Actually, before we even made it to Jim Sec, there's a long story how I went through the doctors that accepted insurance. I would call places and they'd be like, oh, we don't treat Lyme. Nobody wanted to even take me. I finally found a doctor who actually did, and he was amazing. He put me on IV. He's the one who actually put me on IV first. I got a PICC line, and I was on it for the standard 30 days. I wasn't better. Came back to him. He's like, we're going to just keep pushing. So he put me on another 30 days, and he was like, okay, well, we're going to try. He was awesome. He was like going to help me. And literally from one week to the next, somebody got to him, which I do not blame him. Fear came over him. And I remember him walking into the doctor's office and literally just head down, like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm gonna have to pass you on. And this is also after doctor after doctor after doctor, because somebody got to him and said, you're gonna lose your medical license because all these other doctors had, you're gonna get in trouble for over treating her. So that's actually what happened with my doctor in DC, who eventually treated us. Is he doesn't take insurance because, well, the CDC does not like you to treat chronic Lyme, and Big Pharma doesn't like you to treat Lyme. So it's just a huge controversy. So we ended up paying, I don't know, I don't even want to add it up, but at least, thousands and thousands of dollars for us to go through treatment. And so this is the thing about this whole video is about the antibody testing. So once I was treated for I can't remember exactly, I think it's around a year and a half on IV antibiotics, and then another fully about 2.5 years. The total was another year, maybe oral antibiotics, maybe longer, I'm not sure. And then Reese was, I don't know how long you were on it. Anyways, Reese was on antibiotics for a while too, and detox and all this stuff. And it was very difficult, but here's the kicker. Now, so when Reese was retested and I was retested with the Western blot, ELISA test, I think I had the ELISA test, and we are now CDC positive. Would you look at that? So once we got our bodies were able to get back up and fight, our immune system came back up, and now we are able to keep the Lyme down. So that's what I'm saying. If you have a negative test, you need to ask, and you've gone through every other test there is out there to figure out what you have, and it's all negative, and you're going doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor. You need to go back, get that test, get it in front of you, or go to a Lyme literate doctor. But you need to get that test, and you need to see, is there any particular band that's even slightly positive? Because that means that you might actually have chronic Lyme disease. So I know Lyme literate doctors are very, very expensive to start out, but if you can get your hands on that test, then you will be able to determine. And I do know that there is one particular band, I can't remember which band it is, but it is the spirochete band. And there's actually only 2 known spirochetes to man that, which are syphilis and the Borrelia burgdorferi. I can never say it. But the Lyme bacteria and the syphilis are the only 2 spirochetes. So if that band is positive, that means you either have Lyme or that you either have syphilis. So that will greatly rule everything else out. So anyways, good luck to you. I pray for you, Lord. I pray for whoever's watching this video right now, Lord. I just pray that you would just guide them and direct them and just send them to the right doctors. And Lord, I pray that you would just use my story to help other people, God. Unfortunately, I ended up with, my Lyme got so bad, and it's not just Lyme, there's also 15 other tick-borne illnesses. So I had Lyme, Bartonella, and Babesia. So it has other diseases that come with the tick that is not common knowledge. So I ended up with a pacemaker. I'm completely exercise intolerant now, and I'm on a $10,000 a month treatment. Thank you for insurance. That does cover that, of immunotherapy. And I am not, I'm not able to work, but I am living a very restored life because the Lord did guide me through all of that process and has given me supernatural healing in some ways too. So I've seen a lot of restoration, a lot of healing, but I do understand what you're going through out there. And I just pray that the Lord will guide you to the right people and that you will find supernatural healing in Jesus as well. And that you will just keep fighting. Yeah, because there were definitely moments that I wanted to give up. So just keep fighting and pray. I tell you, Jesus is the great physician, and truly, like, he is our first. And just pray for wisdom, pray for doctors, pray for supernatural healing. And I mean, every single night I pray, every single day I pray, and just rely on the Lord.